So I went from this elite athlete being sponsored by Nike, and I've done a TEDx, and I've been on the Today Show and Forbes and all these things. But, your life can change in the blink of an eye. Coming home, I got hit by an SUV. I'm laying in the street. I look down at my leg, and one of the first things I thought was, well, this can't be good. I had no idea that this was literally going to change the whole trajectory of my life. Like my whole life would change. They had to put me in induced coma because I'd lost so much blood. Next thing I know, I wake up from a coma and I learned we're going to have to amputate your leg. You've only got a 1% chance of saving it. That 1%, that's what I hung on to. And that literally took 34 surgeries, months in the hospital, and thousands of hours of excruciating physical therapy. All these things, sometimes when you're going through this really tough situation or a challenge, you don't understand why you're going through it, but there is always a blessing in it. There's always a lesson in it, and it helps develop your grit and your resilience.
So today's guest is a TEDx speaker, a best-selling author, a woman that has overcome more than you and I could ever imagine in our lifetime to climb to the top of her world. So make sure you put on your seatbelt because Amberly Lago is going to take us for a ride. Welcome, Amberly, and thank you so much for being a guest today.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. We were having so much fun talking before we started recording. We're like, oh yeah, we're doing a podcast episode. We got to start recording this. So thank you.
That's what women do that have a lot to say and they want to impact the world.
That's right. And you can just feel that energy when you meet someone. And so I appreciate you having me on and love your show. It's really an honor to be here. So thank you.
Oh, you are more than welcome. And thank you. So rather than read off all your bio, which everybody can get online, and I encourage people to check her out, to check you out, why don't you just start with what you'd like us to know? What makes Amberly the powerhouse woman that she is? And you can start anywhere you want.
Well, thank you. Sometimes when you hear your bio read, I'm like, wow, what? But it's just the highlight reel of these things that I have accomplished, which I'm so grateful that I do have a best-selling book and I've done a TEDx and I've been on the Today Show and Forbes and all these things. But it really is from when I hit rock bottom, when I was really actually living out of a bottle. So I went from this elite athlete being sponsored by Nike.
What sport did you do? I know you did. I know you were a sponsor for Nike. Were you a runner?
Yeah, I was a runner and I was a run leader for Nike. So I actually taught people how to pace themselves to run marathons. And running actually was my drug of choice. That's what I did when I was anxious or when I was happy or when I was sad. That's just what I did. And I didn't realize that I literally ran from everything until I was stuck in a hospital bed. And I was forced to kind of deal with all these emotions of past trauma, of horrible divorce, of sexual abuse as a kid. Like I ran from all of that. And
okay, hang on. Hospital bed? What happened?
Okay. Beautiful sunny California day. I love the weather. And one of my favorite things to do was to ride my motorcycle. So I just finished work, hopped on my Harley.
Motorcycle mama. All right.
Yeah, that's what, my husband was a CHP sergeant and then he became a lieutenant commander. But before that, that's what we did in our pastime was we would ride motorcycles together. And so I really grew up on motorcycles, on dirt bikes. This was my second Harley, hopped on my bike. And, your life can change in the blink of an eye. Coming home, I got hit by an SUV. And I remember just sliding across the asphalt I was right on Ventura Boulevard and thinking, please just don't let another car hit me because I couldn't tell what I was sliding into. Well, I'm laying in the street. I look down at my leg. And one of the first things I thought was, well, this can't be good. I might have to train clients on crutches for a while. See, I had a successful career as a fitness trainer and had several, trainers that worked with me. And then,
So you taught trainers to be trainers.
Yep. I had a trainer certification preparation course. I had, it was a very successful, I got paid to do what I love. Mm-hmm. And so my first thought was, well, I might have to do this on crutches. My default was, okay, well, what am I going to do next? What can I do next? I had no idea that this was literally going to change the whole trajectory of my life. Like my whole life would change. I started to realize how serious it was. Well, number one, the pain, but number two,
this is why you're laying on the floor.
Blood everywhere.
Yeah.
I had a guy that made a tourniquet on my leg right away. He saved my life. I mean, I had no idea at the time that my femoral artery was severed. I was bleeding out on the street.
That's a main artery. Wow.
Oh, yeah. And I had no idea just how severe it was. But as people started approaching me, they weren't running over to me. One lady fainted. People were pausing, looking at me like horrified. Well, luckily, paramedics were down the street. They were already running to the scene of the accident before they could even get on the fire truck and head over. Wow. They were to the scene. I got transported to the hospital right away. They had to put me in induced coma because I'd lost so much blood that my organs were shutting down. They couldn't control the pain. Next thing I know, I wake up from a coma and I learn, sorry, we're going to have to amputate your leg. It's like a war wound. You've only got a 1% chance of saving it. And I thought,
how old were you at the time?
38 years old.
Wow, young.
38. I was really at the prime of my career. I'd done a fitness video the day before. I had just been featured in Shape. So I really felt like, man, all this hard work, I'm finally, living the life of my dreams. And then this was like the rug was just pulled out from underneath me. And when they told me I only had a 1% chance of saving my leg, we're going to have to amputate that 1%. That's what I hung on to. I was like, oh, well, there's still a chance. Well, we've got to find a doctor who's willing to take that chance with me. And that literally took 34 surgeries, months in the hospital, and, thousands of hours of excruciating physical therapy. And I really, growing up being an athlete, and I really, I was talking to my dad last night, and we had we were under tornado warning. We had hailstorm come in, and I said,
this is in Dallas, Texas.
This is in Dallas. And I told him, I said, Dad, there's something to be said about growing up in Texas. You have to be gritty. You have to be tough. You have to be resilient. The weather's constantly changing. You never know when you're going to have to take cover. You have, and I was just giving the analogy.
From a Southern California girl?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I lived in LA for 31 years and being in the dance industry, boy, was that cutthroat. You had to be tough to live in that.
On your toes, pun intended.
Right. But it all these things, sometimes when you're going through this really tough situation or a challenge, you don't understand why you're going through it, but there is always a blessing in it. There's always a lesson in it, and it helps develop your grit and your resilience. And I really think being an athlete, being a professional dancer, all these things, growing up in Texas, all these things did really help me develop my resilience, which helped me get through every single surgery one day at a time.
Wow. So you started to say earlier that, so you're laying in bed and it sounded like you had an epiphany, a revelation, like something changed.
Well, I tell you what, going in the hospital, it was hard going through surgery after surgery, the pain. At one point they thought they were going to have to put me back in induced coma because they just could not control my pain. Excuse me. And when your pain gets so high, you can go into shock where you just start shaking uncontrollably. And so all of that was really hard. But what was really the challenge was when I got home from the hospital, because now I'm home. I have no tools, no coping skills. I've got $2.9 million worth of medical expenses. I'm out of work.
Medical debt.
Yeah. We had a lien on our house. So I was the main breadwinner of the family. Now I'm out of the hospital. I'm completely deformed and scarred from the right hip all the way down. My leg is made of metal. They're still trying to figure out, well, should we go ahead and amputate it after all of these surgeries? Is she going to have an infection? And I'm just thinking, what do I do now? Like, I can't run to process all my feelings and my emotions. I am literally stuck in the hospital bed. I couldn't even use the bathroom on my own. So I had to be on my back with my leg elevated. And my main goal, so I started setting these little attainable goals. And this might sound silly or stupid.
Let me just ask. So you were married at the time, though.
Mm-hmm.
You were married. Is it the person you're married to now?
Yeah, he's stuck by my side.
Okay. And did you have a child at that point?
Yeah, I had a daughter that was 15 and a daughter that had just turned 2 years old. So two very critical times, one that was going to be a freshman in high school and one that had just started going to daycare. So I had never been away from her. And now couldn't see her for 2 weeks. It was the longest I'd ever been away from her. So
also you can't be running after. I mean, a 2-year-old doesn't stop moving.
Yeah. And all I wanted to do was to be able to chase after my kids. All I wanted to do was be able to go to work again. All I wanted to do was be able to be that wife that my husband married. We had only been married a couple of years.
Isn't it amazing? Isn't it amazing how when tragedy strikes, all of a sudden our priorities get readjusted to probably what the priority should be to begin with?
Health is, you can't, if you don't have your health, you can't do the things that you want to do. And if you don't have good health, then you can't enjoy the things that you already have.
Right.
And so it was a major, like, everything stood still. Like, I just wanted to be able to use the bathroom on my own. And so it was a goal of mine. We had the hospital bed downstairs. A goal of mine was I needed to be able to stand up for long enough to use the crutches, to get down the hall, to use the bathroom on my own. And that literally started with seconds at a time, just being able to stand up on my own. And I remember a friend of mine who I worked with, she was another trainer, and she came over and she goes, well, you can't be a trainer anymore. What are you going to do? And I just burst into tears. And I was like, well, what do you mean?
Thank you very much for that. Goodbye.
Yeah. Like, what do you mean I can't work again? Then I had a doctor's appointment, and the doctors told me it's going to take you 2 years to learn to walk again, if you ever walk again. And I thought, well, I've got this doctor's appointment. I am upright on my crutches. It's only been 3.5 months and I'm already upright. He's going to be so proud of me. And I walked in and he took one look at me, examined me a little bit, and ran out of the room. And I looked at my husband. I said, well, that's not the reaction I was looking for. I thought he was going to be really proud.
I don't even get it. What was he running out of the room for?
Well, he diagnosed me with complex regional pain syndrome, which is dubbed the suicide disease because it's ranked highest on the pain scale. There's no known cure. So he told me, you've got something very serious. And I'm kind of like, duh. Yeah, I've got something serious. I was hit by an SUV, like, right. And he goes, no, you're going to be permanently disabled. You need to go back and get in your wheelchair. And I'm like, okay, well, for how long? He said, forever. He goes, you're never going to work again. This is incurable. You're going to be in pain for the rest of your life. And I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. Like, this is going to be the rest of my life. The pain's not going to get better. I felt like I'd been handed a death sentence. And so I cried all the way home. And then we got home. My husband stayed home. I got in the car, drove myself with my leg up on the dashboard because I couldn't have my leg down because of the pain. Drove myself. I learned to drive with my right leg up on the dashboard and drive with my left foot. And I got to physical therapy and I said, hey, Perry, I said, I've got something very serious. the doctor told me I've got CRPS and I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever worked before if I want to have the life if I want that I've always imagined, He said, oh, wow. Well, I thought something was going on. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? And so it was one like appointment at a time at physical therapy, one day at a time. And I'm still not cured. I still have pain, but I have learned to manage the pain to where I can still have a life of joy. I can still work. And
so Amberly, I'm confused. How could your physical therapist not have known you'd been in pain?
Well, you know what? I remember one day they would work on my leg and they would put all this like lotion and stuff to work through my ankle and my leg. So it swelled up like a balloon. And I remember one day, they would get the towel and they would rub off that lotion. And it was like they were taking sandpaper and rubbing my leg. Well, they went around the corner and I could tell they were whispering about something. And I thought, what's going on? They didn't want to tell me. They didn't want to jump to any conclusions that I might have CRPS. Well, being an athlete, being a professional dancer,
your body.
Well, you learn to push through pain. One of the first questions the doctor asked me was, are you the kind of person that likes to push through pain? And I'm like, well, heck yeah, maybe he can tell I've got a degree and suck it up. Like I've got a PhD and suck it up. I can get through pain. He said, well, you need to stop doing that. You've got something very serious. And so being a dancer, I was taught it didn't matter if your toes were bleeding in your point shoes, the show must go on.
Oh, you did ballet. You did ballet.
I did point, and I grew up my whole life as a dancer. Being an athlete,
you're in pain and you starve.
Yeah, I mean, you bust your ass. You, as an athlete, I would be running around the track and have to throw up, and my coach didn't care. She's like, "Get off the track to throw up, and then you keep running." So I just thought I need to push through this, and eventually, it's going to get better. I learned that pain has been my biggest teacher in every aspect and how I listened to my body because I was ignoring it. When I first got diagnosed, I was like, screw this. This is not me. I don't have this. I went to another doctor and they were like, yeah, you have CRPS. At the time, they called it RSD. Went to another doctor.
What did the RSD stand for?
Reflex sympathetic dystrophy. So it's a disease of your sympathetic nervous system. So lack of a better word, it's like a computer that needs to be rebooted. It's always in a constant loop of pain. Mm-hmm. So I went to the third doctor. They're like, yep, you definitely have this and you need to take radical action more than just going to physical therapy. Like you've got to get on this right away. And so I went to take some aggressive medical treatments that weren't covered by insurance, most of them. So I went from never doing a drug in my life to now I'm getting infused with ketamine, which was $2,000 every time I went in. And they basically put you in an induced.
And what is ketamine, an enzyme? What is that?
Ketamine is a horse tranquilizer. So it knocks you out. Like, they have ketamine when they're trying to maybe in the ER for a child that they're trying to reset a broken arm but ketamine knocks you out. It's a hardcore tranquilizer. And
what's the point of that? Yeah. What was the point?
To try to reboot your nervous system. So to try to stop and break that pain cycle. So your body does not sense that pain. And,
got it.
CRPS, when I say it's dubbed the suicide disease, it's because it's like I have it in my right foot, my right leg. So it feels like there's a vice grip on my foot with battery acid going through my vein and you can't get out of that pain. You want to scream uncle. You want to scream mercy.
It's like something on the nerve, just
constant pain. So they would knock me out with these ketamine infusions, didn't seem to work. I had spinal blocks, spinal radial frequency, where they go in and burn the nerve, which a side effect of that is you can become paralyzed. I was willing to be paralyzed to get out of this pain. After trying every kind of treatment, spinal stimulator, they implant spinal, like these leads into your back, and they implant a box in your glute. So in your butt cheek, and you've got like a dial and you turn to try to break that pain cycle. Nothing was working. I was on 73 homeopathic pills and 11 different prescription medications at one time.
Oh my gosh.
And nothing was working for the pain. And the only thing that started to work for the pain was when I was like, forget all of this. I'm tired of being poked and prodded. I have to change my mindset. I have to accept where I am. So I have to accept that, okay, I have CRPS. It's not going away. I can't stuff it down with a bunch of pills. I can't pretend it's not there and try to keep moving forward. The only way I'm going to get through this is to have some awareness about it and embrace it. So as soon as I started to accept it, I was then able to start to make better decisions. And so people ask me all the time, well, gosh, you have CRPS. I can't get out of bed. How do you do it? It starts with mindset. Right. It starts with believing that you're going to be able to get through the day. And it starts with having a purpose. And it starts with getting out of the victim mentality. I had to start to believe that I could be the victor of my life. And I made a decision. I decided I want to be someone who my children look to as, she overcame these things. She does her best every day. She is the victor. She is resilient, not the victim and blame.
It's so funny you say that,
because
I always tell people every circumstance, COVID's a great example. Everyone's in the same circumstance. One of the few times in history of the world, we're all in it together. And you can choose to be a victim or you can choose to be a victor. And it's all your mindset. So my thought is that you are able to tap into that mindset of being an athlete, of being a dancer, of I'm in pain and basically, so what? Keep going.
Well, that served me well until it didn't, because I ended up in the hospital 6 times in 1 year. And then that grit, I was really good at the grit, man. I can work hard. I was not ever the most talented or the best, but I could outwork. I could really work hard. And I was used to pushing through and sucking it up and just get, and growing up in Texas, it was like, we had sayings like cowgirl up, get her done, hide your crazy.
So you grew up in Texas and then moved to California and now you're back. Okay. Now you're right. Get her done. Get her done.
Yeah. Yep. Like whatever it takes. And so I was not listening to the whispers of my body telling me something's wrong. Something's not right. And I remember this is
pain is giving us
an indicator.
Yeah. Right.
It's an indicator. It's telling you, hey, you need to go a different direction. Hey, pay attention to me. Hey, look at this. We got a situation over here. And I remember I had this, the pain was a little worse that day. And I looked at my foot and it looked a little red, more red than usual. But I had a motivational keynote to deliver. And so I put on some uncomfortable shoes and I showed up.
So you were back at work.
I started working 1.5 years after my accident. I started training clients on crutches.
In person.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm. In person. So I started trying to go back to my old life as a personal trainer. That career boomed because people were like, oh, I saw you in the gym in your wheelchair and on crutches. And I have no excuses. Like, I want to train with you because if anybody can show me how to get through it, I know you can. Mm-hmm. But that was not serving me well. I was killing myself on my feet and pushing through. And in fact, I, had gone to give this talk and that night put my leg up on the table and I had this red line going up my leg. And I thought, ooh, this might be an infection, but I'd been busy pushing through the pain. Told my husband, I said, you know what? I'm just going to take myself to the ER. I'll be back. Homework's done. Ruby's homework's done. Kitchen's clean. I'm done with work for the day. Let me go. Here I am last on the list. I usually
let me go take care of myself finally.
Yeah. So I get to the ER and they're like, you have an infection. We have to admit you. This is bad. So I called my husband and I'm like, hey, they're keeping me in the hospital. I guess I have an infection. Still did not pay attention to it. I went so far as to healed from that, still pushing through, getting gritty. I ended up going septic with another infection. And when I went into the hospital, the doctor said, you don't look like you should be here. You look like an athlete, but you're septic. And if we don't admit you into the ICU right away, you could die.
This is another time now. This is not the time.
Oh, yeah. I was in the hospital 6 different times in 1 year. And it took me, maybe it's because I'm stubborn, hard-headed. I just wanted to keep moving forward. I did not listen to the signs that my body was telling me. And it took a doctor telling me, if you would have waited 1 more day, you would have died, for me to start paying attention to, it's not just about the grit. It's about listening to our bodies, about giving ourselves the grace. It's about putting ourselves on our to-do list, because I was busy taking care of everybody else but myself. And I had a good friend of mine say, your impact is only as strong as you are healthy. And it took that for me to go, okay, what are my priorities? And so I think anybody listening right now, I think COVID did that for a lot of people. A lot of people have had health scares, have lost loved ones, have maybe lost their jobs. But what are your values? What are your priorities? And I'm big on to-do list. I have a whole list of things on my desk. And I love.
Oh, we're kindred spirits.
Yes.
They're all here.
Yes. But if we don't put ourselves on our list and take care of our health, then none of the other stuff matters.
So I actually have an interesting question for you I think it's interesting as you're speaking. And that is, so modern medicine in so many ways is miraculous. Surgery, what we do, our life expectancy is so much longer. A lot of our problems are self-induced, overeating, overdrinking, but for the most part, it's incredible. Okay. So here's the dilemma, and I hear you were faced with it. On the one hand, there's so many aspects to today's medicine that can keep us alive. I won't say keep us healthy. I think we're responsible for ourselves, but help us when there's a medical condition imposed upon us, right? And we could talk about that all day. So here's the dilemma, though. Medicine also puts limitations on us. So the doctors told you early on, you'll never walk, you're going to lose your leg, forget about it. And usually when they say a 1% chance, they're like, yeah, you got a snowball's chance in hell, but never say never, right? So the 1%, they were really playing with you, but you grabbed onto that. They don't say anymore now, stage 4 cancer, 3 weeks to live, because they now know that the mindset determines so much of our health. See, my whole thing is the mind body is connected. We don't even, the base of the brain is connected to the top of the spinal cord, right? Gross oversimplification. It's operating reciprocal, right? The brain, logic, emotion. So you willed yourself to health. If you listen to the doctors, you wouldn't have your leg or you'd be dead. Yet you said, the doctor said, if you went 1 more day with the sepsis, you would have been dead. And that was probably true. So how did you face with the medical community telling you one thing and you pretty much said, I don't think so, right?
Well, I think
other times you have to listen to them. So, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I totally get it. And, I think it's important to be your own advocate. You have to ask questions. you have not just the doctor's questions, but ask yourself questions.
Mhm.
For me, I'm a woman of faith. I believe in a higher power. So I'm always like, I ask God, I ask myself, I ask doctors. My dad is having a surgery in a couple of weeks. And I'm like, well, what kind of surgery is it? Well, what did you ask? He goes, well, I don't know. I'm like, Dad, you have to ask questions. Is it invasive? Is it a fusion? Is it, what are they doing? When will you be able to start physical therapy? I'm always saying, ask questions, not just from the doctors, but from everything. Read labels, read the medicine, like the labels on the medicine.
How many people take medication and I'll say to them, what are you taking that for? I don't know. The doctor told me.
No, I'm constantly. So I still have a pain management doctor, and I constantly, because I'm saying this, not that this is everybody's different with CRPS. But I take something, and I fought this for years. I did not want to take medicine or have to take it. I'm on the lowest dosage of Lyrica, which is in the anti-seizure medication. A lot of people that have diabetes are actually on Lyrica. It seems to help with the burning for me. I'm constantly asking my doctor, well, I heard about a vagus nerve stimulator. What is that? And they're like, well, actually, that means a brain surgery. I don't think you want to have brain surgery, do you? And I'm like, actually, no, I don't. But I thought I'd ask you. I just asked them, hey, I heard there's a new FDA drug approved that is a ketamine nasal spray. Do you know about that? I'm sober, so I don't want to have or take anything that's going to make me loopy from, affect my mind. But for me, I'm so happy to hear you say mindset. It starts with your mindset, because, I was on the doctor's TV and they took like a 10-minute clip and edited it down to like 2 minutes. And they took out the part of all these different things I've tried with CRPS. And that's the thing, when you have a chronic illness, and especially an invisible illness, you spend half your time pretending you don't have it, or you try to forget you have it. And you have the other part of the time trying to explain what it is and prove that you have it and you know what it is. And I'm like, forget it. I'm not trying to prove anything. But on the doctors, they cut out the part where I had the spinal stimulator and all these things. And they showed woman cures pain with her mindset. Oh my goodness. The haters came out of the woodwork. First time I had so many haters in my life. But you know what? What works for me starts in my mind. Gratitude is alchemy, journaling, meditating, visualization, all these things, prayer, all these things that I do on a daily basis to get me through the pain, to give me the life that I want. We all deserve to have a life of joy and be able to do.
So hang on one second though. So this is so interesting, because there's so much about meditation and journaling, and I'm big into neuroscience. Not that I'm an expert, but I love the neuroscience, because as a relationship expert, that's someone that believes in how we are with people and energy, right? You can show now, you can show the brain of a depressed person and how it looks different than the brain of someone that isn't. Gross oversimplification. But before we go there, Amberly, since you're someone that is open and explores. So as we're doing this interview now, Tony Robbins just came out with his book, right? And he talks about stem cell treatment. I don't want to go completely off the rails here, but did you try that? Or what do you know about that? Or some people swear by it and other people are like, fairy dust again. What's your thought? What's your take on that?
I think stem cell has worked very well for some people. I thought about stem cell. I have not tried stem cell. I think you have to be very careful where you get it.
Sure.
I think that there are a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, not Tony Robbins. I love Tony Robbins, but there are a lot of people out there that say, oh, try this and this will cure your pain. And the thing is, when you are in a place of desperation, when you would do anything, you mortgage your house, you put a lien on your house.
They prey on the vulnerable. They prey on the vulnerable.
Yeah. And when you're in pain, but I have not tried stem cell. I thought about it. And then after researching it and seeing how it could maybe benefit the CRPS, there's no proven, not any studies that I have been able to find that have shown that it cures or relieves CRPS. Now, the only thing that has worked for me truly is mindset, shifting my mindset. The minute I'm thinking, my life sucks, I wish I could walk, I can't run anymore. Like, I immediately go to a place of lack of the things that I can't do, the life that I mourn for that I used to have. And instead, I shift that with gratitude for what I do have, because it really does shift your perspective and it gets you focused on all the things that you can do and all the things that you do have. And so when I say gratitude is powerful, it's life-changing. And I experienced that the moment that I was in a place of despair in the hospital bed with metal rods holding my leg together. And I remember I was watching some infomercial and there was this beautiful girl running on the beach. And I just started crying, thinking, I'll never wear a bikini again. What if I can't chase after my kids? What if my husband doesn't look at me the way that guy's looking at her in the infomercial? Like, what if he doesn't love me? What if he leaves me? What if I die tomorrow? You know, all these thoughts, I was spiraling down. And I thought, wait, I've got a choice here. I can focus on that. Maybe they're going to amputate my leg tomorrow, or I can focus on the fact that I am so grateful to be alive. I have breath. I am sitting up in my bed. I have nurses that are taking care of me. I have a husband that's still here with me. Like, all the things that I'm grateful for completely shifted the way that I felt in that moment. And so it's something that I did every single day. Now, I never imagined back then when I was writing in my journal every day and mostly to remember what was going on because I was very drugged up. But I never imagined that those moments that I would write down would someday be those journal entries in a book that I would write in the future. But the moments of gratitude, the moments of prayer, the moments of journaling, those shifted my perspective. And it's something that I still do every single day. And people think, oh, you know, you're so positive. And I'm not. Like, I have to work on being positive. Well, it's something I work at.
It's interesting you say that, because especially for all the listeners, whatever your challenge is, gratitude works, you know, whatever it is. And the research shows everyone is searching for happiness, which of course you don't search for happiness. You are happy. And the number one way to be happy, and I know you know this, is gratitude, right? There will always be people that have more, but there's plenty of people that have less. So I'm just cognizant of the time, although I could be here all day, and I have a couple of questions I want to ask you. But first, tell us where you are today. What is your health like? Are you walking? How is your leg? How is your pain?
I still have pain, but it's manageable. Most of the time I forget about pain when I get to sit and talk with you, like somebody that I'm so interested in, and the conversation is so rich that distraction really helps with it. But I've changed everything from my thinking to my daily ritual practice. You know, I get up an hour before anybody or sometimes 2 hours before I wake the rest of the family up. So I can have time devoted to my mindset and my spiritual
self-care, your self-care.
Yeah. And I've changed everything I eat, everything I consume. So I used to believe as a fitness instructor that we get everything from our food. Well, we don't get everything from our food.
No, we don't. Right.
We need supplements, especially as, you know, I just turned 50 and it's like, I need extra supplements. So I need to do things to heal my gut. I was on so many different medications at one point in my life and had so many surgeries that we all need to work on healing our gut.
And we all need calcium as women age. We all need calcium, right? You can't.
So eating an anti-inflammatory diet. And I had one doctor say, wow, well, it's good that you keep yourself in shape, because I'm not sure that your leg would be able to hold you up if you were, overweight. And it was kind of harsh to hear that. But at the same time, movement is my medicine. And I go to the gym, I used to go to the gym because when I was younger, it was like, oh, I want to look good. It's like, no, I want to feel good.
So you have your leg.
I have my leg. It's scarred up, and it's sometimes I get some crazy looks when people see it. But it took me a long time to embrace the way that it looks and embrace those scars. I had a lot of shame. I hated the way that I looked. And it was actually the doctor who saved my leg who really changed my life. And he helped me embrace and shift my mindset around that. And I had gone to him. It was about a year after my accident. And I said, look, doctor, I appreciate all these surgeries you've done and all that you've done to save it, but we need to go ahead and amputate it. It's just giving me too much pain. I need to cut it off so I can just move on. And he said, well, we can't do that. You've got CRPS and you're going to have to save it. It could get worse if we amputate it. And he put my leg in his lap and he looked at it like it was his masterpiece. This was the leg that he had saved. And something shifted in me. And I started thinking, wow, if he can look at my leg like that, then maybe I can start to look at it that way too. And
you know what I just thought, Amberly, as you described that, I literally could just picture that. And the sense I have, and I hope this isn't offensive to you, but I felt like he was like you said, this is my masterpiece. And I feel like he gave the message, aren't you deserving of this?
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I just felt that. Like, this is I gave you my masterpiece. You don't want it? Like, he would have felt rejected.
And my first thought when he put my leg, and usually they'll put your leg on the table or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. No, that was very intimate, appropriately so. That was very intimate.
Yes. He sat in front of me and he put it in his lap. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, he's putting my ugly, disgusting leg on his nice white coat. And when it was like he not only accepted it, he was like, what a masterpiece.
It was his baby.
It's in his book. It was one of his most challenging cases.
You got to give the doctor a shout out. What was it? What was his
name?
My
gosh, Dr. Don Wiss. Okay. He retired, and I told him, if you ever retired, I'm going to hunt you down and find you while you're fishing on that lake and come get you when I need a surgery. He's amazing.
Amberly, I'm curious. Did you ever meet the man that saved you, that put the tourniquet on your leg when you were bleeding from your foot? You never did.
I have always wanted to. I've never met him. I wish I could thank him because he saved my life. Now, I have made several thank yous to, like, I remember when I was being put in induced coma, the ER was crazy. It was chaotic. My husband was crying. Like, I'd never seen him cry. He's a big, tough guy. And I remember this beautiful nurse, her name is Shaniqua, and she leaned over me and she said, I'm going to give you something to make you feel all better now. And I remember in that moment thinking, when I'm well enough, I'm coming back to this hospital to thank her for giving me that moment of serenity and peace before I was put in induced coma. And I did. As soon as I was able to be put in a wheelchair, I had my husband take me to Northridge Hospital, and I went and found her and thanked her. And about 2 years later, I reached out to her and we went for a hike. She's not a hiker. She doesn't like to hike, but she said, if you can actually hike, I told myself that I could do it too. So I've kept in touch with a lot of the doctors, a lot of the nurses who.
And they so appreciate that, because people, they mean well, they do appreciate the help, but then they leave and they go on, they live their life, which is what the healthcare workers want. But when you do come back, I mean, there's so many people that you have blessed with your story besides the healthcare workers. So if we still have time, tell us a little bit about the work that you do now, because you are inspiring people with the life that you live. So share that, your gift, please, with the listeners.
Oh, well, thank you. I do coaching, group coaching, and in fact, it's crazy. So I do a mastermind is what I'm really into right now, which is my pride and joy. I love doing because it's women that I share how to share. I teach them how to share their message, build their influence and their impact. And so, 5 years ago, I didn't even own a computer. And when I decided to write a book, I hand wrote about 80, 90% of it, then bought a computer, found a publisher, and they were like, well, we don't do any marketing. So if you want to do that, you're going to have to figure it out yourself if you want to get your book out there. So I'm like, okay, well, let me start Instagram and social media and built that platform and then ended up on the Today Show becoming a bestseller. And so now
Amazing.
what I'm passionate about is, I was really helping people to move through pain, but we all have pain. But now what I'm most passionate about is taking these women and sharing everything that I've learned along my journey on how to turn your mess into your message and get your story out there to really help and inspire others. I think we need more women sharing their stories, starting podcasts, getting on stages, speaking on panels. And so any way I can share with them how to get their message out there and empower them, that's what I love doing the most.
I love that. I love that. Turn their mess into their message. So before I have you tell people how they can find out more about you, because I know they will. I have two questions. One is, what is the single most important thing you've learned about life that you want everybody to know? One, the single most. Like I'm thinking there's five that you have.
Oh, I would say ask for help, that you don't have to do it alone. I thought, well, I'm not asking for help, that I don't want to show my vulnerability. I don't want to appear less than. If I ask for help, I'm going to look stupid. No, if I can leave you with one thing today, it's ask for help. I think every level of your life, of your relationships, of your business, we all need help. When we support each other, we're powerful, we're unstoppable. Yes, we're strong on our own, but man, when you come together with another powerful woman and you share your experience, your strength, and your hope, you are unstoppable. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I'm struggling with pain, or I'm struggling in my business or in my relationship, ask for help. Go to someone who's already gone through that struggle. They've come out on the other side, and ask them how they did it. That has changed my life. That's why I still, I'm a coach and I have a coach. I'm a mentor and I have a mentor.
And you have the mastermind. It's the power of
community. Yes. Yeah. It's the power of community.
My last question for you. Listen to the whole question. What's the last book that you reread and why?
I would say a book that I have read quite a bit, and this is Soundtracks by, I don't know if you know who John Acuff is. He talks about the power of what we tell ourselves and the belief and how we can switch that. The Four Agreements is a book that I think everyone should read. It's simple and it helps me with daily choices. So I've read that book several times. You Are Radically Loved by my friend Rosie Acosta.
And the author of the Four Agreements, is that Gottman?
Don Miguel Ruiz. Okay. I think that's how I'm saying it. Yeah. The Four Agreements is awesome. I think The Energy Bus by John Gordon is great. And then of course, I've read this book several times, True Grit and Grace.
Who's the author of that book?
That Amberly Lago girl. She's
I hear she's something else. So Amberly, so how people, I could speak with you forever. I really could. But how can people learn more about you, find out about you, want to work with you, find out about your book? Where do they go?
Oh, amberlylago.com. And you know what? I thought I want to give your listeners something special that they can take with them, that they aren't just going to be inspired by hearing it like a story. Well, hopefully everybody listening is inspired. But if you text the word grit, GRIT to 818-214-7378. I'm sorry, I'm not even saying my own phone number right. Just text me the word.
That's good, because just for the listeners to know, when we started, we had to restart because I didn't even get the name of my podcast right. So I'm sorry. My brain fart was contagious.
Well, no, you know what it is? I have one of my favorite Zoom meetings like stuck on my laptop, and I looked at that number at the same time I was repeating my number, and I'm like, oh my goodness, no, text me.
You just illustrated the power of the mind.
Yes, right. Of what we visualize, yes. So I have a downloadable playbook on how to tap into your superpower of resilience. And you know what?
Wait. And the number, give the number, Amber.
818-214-7378.
Okay. And we'll put that up when we air the.
Okay. Yeah. And then I'm hanging out on Instagram at Amberly Lago Motivation is where you see most of my shenanigans in my story and stuff like that. But
where you're causing trouble.
Yes, that's right. Where we're causing trouble, running away from these tornadoes we've had lately in Texas and all that stuff.
No woman, no person, and certainly no woman ever changed the world by being a good girl.
That's right. I like it. I think we're going to have a lot of fun together.
Well, thank you so much. So to all my listeners out there, Amberly did not disappoint. I know she took you for a great ride. So make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time.